So this is a story out of the UK. It's a gender story, and it's about as much about semantics, newspeak. Two British men become first to give birth after putting gender surgery on hold. It's a bit misleading because the two British men are not connected at all. It's just they've both done the same thing. So there's two stories in one. So Hayden Cross and Scott Parker, basically they were both born women, so these are girls who have had children and then they've had surgery to turn into men, or they're going to have surgery to turn into men. So what's happened now, they're in the middle of that process, they've had children, then they're going on to make that impossible by turning into men. So in April, Mr. Parker gave birth to his daughter, Sarah, who was conceived following a drunken one-night stand with a friend in August last year. So here we have, I mean, let's call it what it is. It's INGSOC. It's the Newspeak dictionary. Mr. Parker gave birth to his daughter after a drunken one-night stand with a friend in August last year. Now, that's an impossibility. Mr. Parker cannot give birth after a drunken one-night stand. That's not how biology works. So if you gave this to children, you would hope they would spot that. It's a logical fallacy in the sentence. Grammatically, it's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. So you could give it to somebody and say, grammatically analyze that sentence. It's fine. But logically go through it. Okay, Mr. Parker cannot give birth. You know, Mr. Parker's partner could give birth to his daughter, who was conceived following a drunken one-night stand, but not Mr. Parker. But that's what's happened. And the second one is last month, Mr. Cross delivered his daughter via cesarean section after he found a sperm donor on Facebook and inseminated himself. So what has happened here is both of these men, and now it does say somewhere, yeah. So Mr. Cross was born Page, but has been living legally as a man for more than 3 years. So Mr. Cross is legally a man. Now, legally, we'll come back to this in a second. So what that means is that, such as this newspaper, the Telegraph, has to refer to this person as Mr. because they are legally a man. Yet they are perfectly fine with writing a story about a man giving birth under natural circumstances. This isn't like a wonder of science where it happened in a lab. A man is giving birth to a baby after scientists some breakthrough procedure where men can now give birth. No. Both of these men are not men. They are men in title in some weird legal sense, but they are not men. I mean, it tells you here because they're both girls, they're both women, they've both given birth legally, naturally. You know, this guy basically found somebody on Facebook, he came round, he tossed off into a jug, and this guy, Mr. Cross, or this woman, using a syringe, inseminated herself. She's a woman. You can call her a man in the press all you like, but she's a woman. There's fine. Now, the telling thing in this, I was happy, but I also knew it was backtracking on my transition. Fine, so the NHS refused to freeze. So yeah, he asked the NHS to freeze his eggs. A man doesn't have eggs, a woman. So that sentence should read, she had asked the NHS to freeze her eggs before completing the transition, in the hope that she might have children in later years, but the health service refused. Thankfully, they put their foot down on something. Here we go. Right, so this is the crucial part. Mr. Parker said he had asked to be registered as the father on Sarah's birth certificate, but was told by officials that he must be listed as Sarah's mother, because they are basic level officials who have to register mother and father. Every child must have a mother and father. It's, there are these odd cases. I mean, you're getting into cloning otherwise. Even these women with test tube babies and all this lab stuff, there was still a biological father in there, because there was still a zygote, a spermatozoa in there, a male sex cell. So yeah, of course, the officials at the land register, or sorry, at the registry office, won't register her as the father. So how are you legally living as a man if the officials will not also acquiesce to that and assign you as a man? So this is Newspeak. This is INGSOC Newspeak in action, where the press with a completely straight face can talk about men having babies, and it's not a scientific thing. It's just they are women, biological women having biological babies, but they are men just in name only. Of course, operate, all over this kind of thing, left wing, touchy feely,